And there came a day unlike... Wait, no, that's been done. Who knows what evil lurks in... No, that is that other thing. What has yellow skin and rights? Ah, forget it. You're listening to Panelology. Excelsi... Oh, damn it.
Welcome to episode 223 of Panelology. I'm Alex.
And I'm Brian.
Hey, Brian. How you doing this week?
I'm okay. I had a big project finish a phase 1 launch Friday, and surprisingly smoother than we feared would happen. So I'm pretty good.
That is always very exciting.
It is very exciting, yes.
Smoother than planned is much, much better than the alternative.
Yeah, like by 10:30 in that morning, when we hadn't got a lot of calls about it, I was like, I'm kind of scared that...
Did we forget to go live?
Right, exactly. I don't know. No, it was just, we actually did real well, so I'm happy. Yeah.
Excellent. Before we jump into comics, in lieu of more cold open, Brian asked me a question while we were making notes.
I did.
And I felt like this would be a good thing to talk about in the show.
I asked Alex, I said, are you caught up and through all of the messiness and horrendous confusion caused by the interruption in shipping and the months off and the delays and the rescheduling and all that?
And I was already kind of thinking about this because if you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago, I probably would have said, yeah, I think so. But I don't think I'm as through it as I am because this is a product of two things. This is a product of the fact that we have had the hiatus in shipping. This is also a product of the fact that I am doing curbside pickup for my books rather than going into a shop and seeing things on the shelves.
Yep.
My comic shop is taking pull lists by email week by week, which is compounded a little further by there having to be two sets of pulls, one on Monday evening and one on Tuesday evening, because they're asking for the DC pulls separately from all the other pulls and trying to get them done before the other comics arrive and they check them in.
Yeah.
So I keep missing books, and then I'll catch, as I'm going through my bag, I'll have seen covers for something and just it didn't make it to the list that went to them, or I forgot or I missed it entirely. Mm-hmm. So I'll call or email and say, hey, can you hold this for me? And then I'll have done the same thing the following week. I did it last week and this past week, or week before last and this past week, with X-Men 10 and then Empyre X-Men. I'm like, okay, don't forget this X-Men book. And I count the X-Men book. I'm like, okay, I've got the right number of books here. Well, I forgot Empyre X-Men. So I'm just perpetually, losing out on little things here and there just because... And maybe it's not so much the catch-up as much as the rest of it, but I feel like I started from zero and had to learn how to plan this over again, right?
Well, yeah, and I can tell you it was even worse for me. I can one-up you there, because as you know, so there's some other things going on with me that it became necessary for me to switch to basically a mail order service for books. Which I had started literally weeks before the whole delayed shipping and this whole thing blew up, right?
Yeah.
So in addition to the fact that, there was this whole delay and we didn't know when things were coming out and all of that wonderful stuff, I had also switched to mail order, which, if you don't know, means that you basically are ordering from solicitation.
Yeah.
So when we do solicitations, like within a week or so after that is when I'm putting my order in for those books, right? So 3 months ahead of time. So I had this period of like 6 weeks or 2 months where it was the couple of weeks right before everything stopped, and then when they started shipping to comic shops again for about a month before my first order from mail order came in.
Yeah.
So it was a nightmare trying to put all of that back together. In addition, as if all of that wasn't bad enough, there were books, that were canceled, right?
Mm-hmm.
There
Or
were
went
books
digital
that
only.
or there were books that went digital only and we're not going to ship these copies, and there were books that yeah, we're canceling these and they're going to get resolicited and put out again later. Or the recent ones that are my absolute favorite are the ones that I had put in orders for, and then they said nope, these are going to be digital only, so they canceled them, and now they have come back and said, yeah, no, we're going to print these anyway.
Thanks, Marvel. That's a Marvel call right
That's
there.
wow.
Those
That is. I will say, my mail was super super good. They were like, we know you ordered these originally, so unless we hear otherwise, we're going to send them to you and just add that to your bill.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. If you don't want us to do that, get in touch with us within the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then the other piece here that adds a little more planning on the front end, for me at least.
Yeah.
I do not normally. I like variant covers, but am not precious about them. So for the last several years that I've been reading comics, I'll walk into the comic shop and I will look on the shelf and see what's there and get the cover, or maybe sometimes a couple of covers that I like best. And now I'm also having to find cover art for every variant. And
try doing that 3 months ahead of time.
I mean, 3 months ahead of time, it's straight up impossible. I know that much.
For some of them, it is.
Yeah.
For some of them, it is. Yeah.
And that's
the good news. Yeah. The good news is I have gotten really good at being consistent on knowing which books I want the alternate cover for.
Yeah.
Right. And then recognize. I mean, we've been doing this for 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
And
a
knowing,
half.
Yeah, like more than, right? And I've gotten pretty decent at recognizing the artists that, okay, yeah, I want that one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Stepan Shaik does a cover, yeah, I'm getting that one. If Art Germ does a cover, I'm going to pick up that one.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the place where it becomes a headache, and this was this week. This is the first week since DC has had separate distribution that my comic shop has been shorted by DC's distributor.
Oh.
Now, fortunately, it did typically mean kind of what it normally meant with Diamond. They got one of 2 or 3 covers.
Right.
So, on the one hand, I'm having to track covers now, but at the same time, it's or whatever you got. Whatever's actually on the shelf that week.
Yep.
They got Yeah, they got totally shorted Legends of the Dark Knight. I am shocked that I was able to not only order that on Tuesday, but have it here yesterday to read in time for this.
So that is it's a mixed blessing, right? The mail order thing is, I can guarantee that I can just about always get the one that I want, but I have to figure out and know that that's the one that I want. So, yeah. I've had to completely rewrite my program that automatically imports things, and now I'm actually having to I have a whole nother table in my database that's just for orders, right? And a whole process of 3 things that I have to do, where it makes a temporary table and it puts up things for me to match, so I can match what I have on order with what's actually on release date for a given week.
Yeah.
So I can match those up, and then pull up a list of, oh, well, this actually came out this week, and oh, it looks like I didn't actually order that, so I've got to go figure out where to get that from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's messy.
Yeah, and a lot of there have been a lot of especially third-party books that
Yeah.
my comic shop straight up hasn't gotten from Image. Like they came out or from Diamond. They came
Diamond, yeah.
out,
Right.
and some of them were right before the hiatus, some were right after. Some have shown up eventually, others
Sure.
haven't.
Yep.
So if I'm being honest, I've done a lot of gonna order these 2 issues online and just make sure I don't miss them because
I have already put in 2 orders from Midtown Comics online.
Yeah.
To try to play catch up with the ones that I missed. And there's going to be like 10 or 12 books. I think I've got everything else pretty well lined up. There's like 12 books that I'm going to have to go somehow find somewhere. Yeah.
The other place I've had luck with too, and this was normally Midtown is where I go to if just
Sure.
my shop doesn't get something.
Yep.
But they were already sold out of Legends of the Dark Knight this week. I wound up going to Forbidden Planet, New York.
Oh, okay.
Online.
Yep.
They're the other big one up there that
Yeah,
I've had
I've
luck
actually
with.
been physically in both of those shops. So yeah.
I don't think I've been in Forbidden Planet. I've been in Midtown.
Yeah.
Well, that is about twice as much time as I actually thought we'd spend on that.
Yeah, that's all right though. But the point is, yeah, it's getting better. I think DC, everything's pretty much caught up and
Yeah.
flowing smoothly. Marvel still has some of their stuff that they're catching up on.
Yeah, and we'll probably touch a little bit on that again when we get to Empyre.
Yeah.
But for now, let's actually talk about comics.
Yeah, let's move to that.
Dark Knights Death Metal, Legends of the Dark Knights. This is a one-shot that came out this week. That is a lot about the Batman who laughs taking the Batman Manhattan body and becoming the Darkest Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And that really serves as, if you are jumping into this without having read everything that has led up to Death Metal, this serves, I think, as a really good on-ramp into understanding what's going on.
Yep.
The other stories in here tell us about the Robin King,
Mm-hmm.
B-Rex,
Yep.
I'm going to call it the Bat Buggy.
The Batmobeast.
I like Bat Buggy better. It makes me think Spider
Sure.
Buggy. The Batmobeast who we saw in Dark Knight's Death Metal #2.
Mm-hmm. Castle Bat.
Castle Bat. Yep.
Yep.
And there was one more, I think, wasn't there?
Baby Batman.
That's right. The strangest.
That one was so weird. I mean, it's from Garth Ennis, so you would expect it to be strange anyway.
That's
but...
fair. That's
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by far, the Darkest Knight and Robin King are the two that actually kind of have a little bit of meat in the story, right?
Yeah.
The other, some of these are just a single page, even. Yeah. But yeah, it is a good. I like the backstory you get in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it does a good job of, I think, contextualizing what this Batman would do with Dr. Manhattan's powers without just making him Dr. Manhattan again.
Right. Yep, I agree. The other one is, damn, that Robin King. Holy crap.
Yeah, who could have seen the identity of the Robin King coming?
Shut up. I know you did. But my point is, good God, that Bruce Wayne started out more psychotic than Joker.
Yeah, that is
gosh.
very true. Did you notice what the movie they were coming out of was, though?
I did. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I do
Return of the Grey Ghost.
Return of the Grey Ghost, yes. Yep. Oh, Beware the Grey Ghost.
Beware the Grey Ghost.
Yes.
I will tell you the thing I've always wanted someone to do with, I say always, post Flashpoint have wanted someone to do with the JLA in all of the rebirth and continuity fixing.
Right.
I really, really hope that at some point, oh yeah, the Grey Ghost was here this whole time. Happens.
He was part of continuity, right?
I want the Grey Ghost to canonically have existed as part of the
awesome.
JSA.
That's great. Yeah, then we get a 2-page Batmanosaurus Rex by Marguerite Bennett, which was fun.
Yeah.
And then we get, I think it's Frank Thierry writes the next one, which is basically where Batman becomes Gotham City.
Yes.
Like, there's a ritual that he does where he sacrifices somebody he loves to literally become the city, like the bricks and the streets and the
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I need to see this Batman versus Danny the Street, please.
That would be amazing. And then we get what is, definitely by far the weirdest one, which is also just a 2-page story, which is Baby Batman, where Batman is essentially dying, and so he takes his body, his brain, his self, whatever, and puts it into a body that he has prepared. What he didn't realize is that the body didn't actually mature. The clone didn't mature, so it's actually still a baby when it releases him. So he can't do anything and falls down the stairs and then unleashes the only power that he has, the only power that he can use.
He cries.
He cries, yeah.
My favorite is the part where Batman doesn't have a strong enough neck to hold up his head.
Yes, that's hilarious. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just like the comic itself, this is a fun, stupid little anthology thing. Yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
Moving on, DCeased Dead Planet #2.
Cool. Okay, so we'll talk about Injustice a little bit. Tom Taylor's other kind of AU, right?
Yeah.
Stories. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about this DCeased universe that just really clicks with me, and I really, really love it. And this one brings the last 2 series, so DCeased and DCeased Unkillables.
Mm-hmm.
It brings them together and starts moving the story forward from there.
Yes.
And holy crap, was it good. We get the Shadow Pact, which is basically a team that put themselves together, and it's essentially kind of Justice League darkish.
Yeah, it's Constantine, Zatanna, Detective Chimp, Blue Devil,
Red Hood.
Yeah. No, Red Hood wasn't Shadow Pact, was he? Oh, that's right, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Red Hood and Orphan.
And Ravager.
Oh, Ravager. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and Ravager. Oh, and Ragman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they come in and kind of stop a thing, and then Swamp Thing shows up, and it turns out, if you get stuck in a zombie apocalypse, Swamp Thing is who you want to be your friend.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Because he just takes out a whole mob of the undead by himself. Beautiful.
He is what the finale of the movie version of Little Shop of Horrors would call a mean green mother.
Indeed he is. We check in real super briefly on Harley and Poison Ivy and the garden that she has, the garden sanctuary she has set up in Gotham. And we find out another reason why it's staying safe. And then Cassie shows up with Superboy, who at the end of Unkillables, was it? No, the end of last issue of this, right? He got stabbed with Wonder Woman's sword. And it's bad news. So she brings him to the garden in Gotham, and they meet Mary Marvel there, and and then there you go. And then we get a little romance started up.
We do.
Yeah, I was not expecting this one.
No, not at all. Not even a little.
This is not the pairing I would have thought of. I don't hate it.
No, I'm here for it, but
it is not what I would have thought. Damian is like, I'm sorry this happened. I'm sorry, and I'm here for you, whatever you need. And then he and Cassie kiss. Yeah.
We're going to be clear. It's Cassie Sandsmark, not
Cassie
Cassandra
Sands.
Cain.
Yeah, correct. The new Wonder Woman, right?
Yes.
Well, she was still Wonder Girl in this. I assume she will shortly become Wonder Woman. Yeah. And then you remember how we just talked about Shadow Pact?
I was very excited for Shadow Pact. I was looking forward to seeing more of them. I figured, hey,
well, you can see more of the one or two that are left.
Were any left?
Yeah,
I mean, there were
well,
the two who stayed back in Ivy's sanctuary.
yeah, and I'm not sure that Constantine's gone,
He does
but
have a way of sticking around.
but the rest of them definitely are. Because let me tell you who you don't want turned into a zombie. Apparently,
I will never,
as
ever, ever again underestimate.
Plastic Man. Holy shit! I thought Swamp Thing kicked ass earlier in this book. Plastic Man dump mess people up.
Yep.
He, like literally one page took out that whole team. Oh my god! It's not a mote of blood. It's a Plastic Man. Ugh, in every way. Oh god, I love this book. Okay, we're gonna move on, but oh, so good. Read this. If you are not reading it now, read it in trade for God's sake.
Well, while we are in Tom Taylor Town,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about Injustice, Year Zero, number 1 through 3. These are digital first.
Yep.
A prequel to Injustice, if that is not clear from the title. And most importantly, they bring in some JSA members.
They do. So this basically all three of these kind of there's really only two kind of stories starting out in this, and that is the Justice League gets together for a celebration and to honor the Justice Society who came before them. And like they have like a dinner, and the Justice Society gets a big picture and that whole thing, and basically it's just a small celebration, and we have that going on, and then in the meantime, Joker breaks into Arkham to break out this person who is going to die.
Yes.
Yeah. And it turns out that he knows a secret about mystical power that Hawkgirl and Hawkman unearthed in Egypt before World War II. And essentially it is, the Nazis got a hold of it for a while, and then it looks like it's been passed around. But essentially it's it's the Egyptian god of chaos who possesses people that hold her amulet.
It's very, it reminds me a lot of the Justice League Unlimited, or maybe it was maybe it was before it became Unlimited, but the Justice League episodes with Eclipso.
Yeah.
It's a very Eclipso vibe.
The other thing it reminds me of is there was a lot in the 80s with like All-Star Squadron and some of that stuff, where specifically a lot of the Justice Society stuff, where they would talk about like occult type things that Hitler and the Nazis were either seeking or had, or because there was a lot of Hitler believed in the occult, and there was a lot of rumors about crazy things and urban legends about things that happened.
Yeah.
And so clearly comics plays off of that, but it reminded me a bit of that kind of thing, right? But essentially it looks like we're going to get the story of how Joker got the power to do what he did to instigate what happens in Injustice. Yeah.
The highlight of this is the interaction between Batman and Wildcat. The ease with which Wildcat can get under Batman's skin is a work of art.
It truly is. And I have to think that it comes from a place of insecurity in Bruce, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Wildcat was like the first superhero that didn't have any powers, and it was just his determination and ability, like physical fighting.
And not just no powers, no billions of dollars of wealth and toys.
Oh, yeah, no. Right.
He had neither powers nor a bank account. He had his fists.
And I think Flash's reaction to it may have been my favorite part.
Hey, Ginger, get the popcorn.
Yeah. So, like they agree to a fight, and Batman does like a nerve punch to him, and like thinks he's incapacitated him, and Wildcat just literally just backhands him.
Mm-hmm.
And Barry Allen sees it and runs. It's like, Jay, you gotta come now. Get some popcorn. You're not gonna believe what's happening to Batman. It's so great. And then afterwards, Batman walks by them and says, I smelled the popcorn. It was beautiful. Okay. So good. Yeah, these are fun digital first. I like the intro we're getting here.
Yeah. And usually, like in the past, when they've done print editions of this eventually, the first 3 issues become, 3 issues of digital become an issue of print. So
Yes. Yeah.
at some point in the future, like, this will probably be number 1.
Yeah. The other, they either do that or there's sometimes they don't print them as floppies and they just come out as straights. I've seen both ways.
Yeah, I don't know, DC is doing more digital straight to trade than they used to. Yep. I'd be a little surprised if Injustice didn't get floppies, because it has generally in the past, and also it's a very popular franchise.
Yep, nope, I don't disagree with you.
The real question is, does this mean that we're coming up on an Injustice 3 announcement for PS5 and whatever the new model of Xbox is called? I have lost the naming conventions on those.
I have too.
I would be a little surprised if this weren't leading up to that.
That would not surprise me, because there's going to be one. Yeah.
And it'll be fantastic. The Dreaming, Waking Hours, number 1. This is really, really fucking good.
Is it? I will probably end up trying to pick this up. Yeah.
This is a 12-issue series written by G. Willow Wilson, drawn by Nick Robles, and I'm going to mention Matt Lopez as colorist here too. I assume it's Lopez and not Lopes. It could be Lopes, Lopes. Because the colors do a lot of work in this book, and they do it very subtly, and they do it very effectively. Letters are Simon Boland.
Okay.
This is about a woman named Lindy. You don't need to have read any other, like the Sandman universe, the Dreaming series that's been going on. You don't need to be caught up on it for this to make sense. This is about a woman named Lindy who has an infant child and is working on her doctorate in English literature.
Okay.
And is writing about Shakespeare. And trying to write about Shakespearean authorship theories, although her advisor is so incredibly against that because she does not see that as a critical interpretive feat. She sees that as a rumor-mongering kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Lindy keeps having this dream about this weird house whose architecture is very reminiscent of the globe. That she wanders through every night in her dreams, and it always gets bigger, and she can never, reach the end of the staircase or whatever. And after she has a meeting with her advisor, she goes home, she takes a nap with the baby, and runs into this figure, inside the house, and she's never seen anyone else in there before, and he tries to get her to wake up. But it turns out because she is lucid dreaming, that is a little harder than planned. And he happens to actually be a nightmare. A literal nightmare from the dreaming, who isn't supposed to be in her dreams, but is. And when she wakes up, because she was lucid dreaming, he ends up in the real world and she ends up trapped somewhere, presumably in the dreaming, with Shakespeare and his wife and everyone else who's ever been theorized to write a Shakespearean play. And we come to learn that this nightmare has a reputation as a colossal fuck-up in the dreaming. Can never do anything right. He goes to the one person he knows in the real world, who is an angel, and asks him to take care of the baby. Because apparently he was the angel who brought Jesus. And then the librarian in the dreaming realizes, someone let something out of the box of nightmares.
Oh boy.
It is a lot of fun. I think it's going to be an easy thing to come to. Even the Sandman Daniel presence is pretty light. You don't need, I think, a whole lot of history for that to make sense. It certainly feels like it belongs in the Sandman world. And the coloring and the way that Matt Lopes swaps between these very blue, purple, pink hues in the dreaming and very warm colors, and then these really cold, cool blues and browns and greens and tans in the waking world.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really well done. They feel like different worlds, but in the art there's enough sort of consistency that they still feel like they both belong to Lindy. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, and I've said almost nothing about G. Willow Wilson's writing, but like G. Willow Wilson is very, very good, and it's a really great read too.
All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
there you go. There's the hard sell. Brian, why don't you catch me up on the Terrifics?
Oh my word! So yeah, I read I think like the last 4 issues of these, getting caught up. And essentially, what is going on is the team has figured out that Simon Stagg was dying, and made a deal with what is essentially a demon to keep him alive, but that went, of course, horribly wrong. So the Terrifics had to fight that off, and in the meantime, we find out that Mr. Terrific has formed the Tea Council, which just the name alone cracked me up.
Do they also enjoy crumpets?
Right? So it is a bunch of really smart people. It is Ted Cord and Adam Cho, not Adam Cho,
Ryan Choi?
Ryan Choi. Thank you. Yes, Ryan Choi. I was Adam is where, and then I got stuck on it, couldn't get off of it. Yeah,
it must
Adam.
have been positive. It must have been missing an electron. That would imply you're negative. I don't know. Maybe it had an extra electron and you're positive, and that's why you were attracted.
Maybe.
Polarity jokes.
Magnetism. Ain't nobody know how that works. Okay, so anyway.
That's a different thing, thank you.
That is a different thing. Let's see. Oh, and of course, the one that you have to is Silas Stone, Vic Stone's father, who is, of course, we were actually watching, I was watching Doom Patrol with my kids last night.
Yes.
So good. And Vic's dad, and I was like, oh, now this is the one thing that is consistent in not only this show and the comics, but in literally every place I have ever seen him, and that is that his dad is a complete asshole.
Now, I'm gonna say this one thing about him on the Doom Patrol. I think that is the most human version of him I have seen.
I will not disagree.
It's the only version of him I've ever been able to relate to and see reason for his actions in.
Right, like you don't like him and you don't like what he's doing, but you truly understand why he's making those choices. Yeah. Right, I agree with you there. Anyway,
this is an aside. That show's good, and everyone should be watching it.
So essentially, it's all of these really, really smart people, and the Tom Terrific, right?
Tom Morrow? No, Tom Terrific.
Tom Terrific.
T.O. Morrow is a different guy.
That is a different guy. That's the guy that made Amazo.
Tom Strong.
Tom Strong. You're right. You are correct. Yeah. Tommy Tomorrow is something different. Yeah.
Tommy Two-Tone. That's a.
Wow, we're really going there now. Yeah, Tom Strong. I'm sorry. Yes, the Strong family. So basically, all of these super smart people, and turns out that he has put them together because he wants them to come teach at this new community association that he has put together in Gateway City, and just teach for the sake of people being able to learn and advance themselves.
That's cool.
Yeah. And really, so what we find out is Stag Industries and Terrifitech, right, Mr. Terrific's company, they are essentially trying to build a new utopian city in Gateway City, out of Gateway City. It's all green and the technology that really helps people, and this community center where people can just learn for free and all this. Well, part of this whole thing, Simon indeed does die, but we find out that he decides not to leave his company to his daughter, but instead is leaving it to his son, who he ostracized and shipped off to boarding school when he was super young. Oops.
Of course, because Simon Stagg's a dick.
Because Simon Stagg is a dick. And yeah. And we've got one issue left for them to figure out how to overcome this team that Sebastian Stagg has put together. Yeah.
Cool. I've got to catch up on this in trade.
Yeah, well, there's only one more, so there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Young Justice number 17, or, as I have come to think about it, holy fuck, everything that's happened from the beginning of Naomi through this issue, including all the stuff in Superman and Action Comics that is relevant, happens in 48 goddamn hours.
Yep, sure does. And as if that wasn't a story, like, somebody needs to collect all of that, like all of her own stories, right?
Yeah.
Plus what has happened in Young Justice, plus what happens in like all of that together in a trade for Naomi, because it comes full circle again back here in Metropolis after the Battle of Metropolis, where the Young Justice and the Justice League fight off Lex Luthor, right, and his whole Legion of Doom people.
Yeah.
This whole issue is Young Justice and Justice League cleaning up after that, which was the whole impetus, I remember, from Naomi number 1, the first Naomi story, where they were complaining about how Superman ended up fighting Mongol and destroying the town, and nobody stayed to clean it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just, in general, love for DC to do what Marvel has done with Hickman's stuff, and put out collections that just collect the work in the order it goes in the story.
Right. Yep. Yeah, because this one, the end of this one essentially feeds into like 3 issues ago, I think, of Action Comics. 4 issues ago, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, where Superman and Connor Kent go to the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I also would love to see the timeline that then takes all of that and puts it in order and places it in sequence with Scott Snyder's work on Justice League and all of that, because some parts of this just cannot, like, there must be weeks between what's going on here and what's going on in some other books.
Oh yeah, definitely. But essentially, so it is those 2 teams, Young Justice and the Justice League, cleaning up after the Battle of Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
And we get, kind of as our introduction to this, a father who owns a food truck and his daughter who drive to the scene in order to supply water and food for the first responders and the heroes while they're cleaning up.
Yeah.
Just because they want to do their part, and that's what they can do, right? And then while they're there, we get the daughter essentially observing all of these interactions between Cassie Sandsmark and Wonder Woman, and Impulse and Flash, and
Batman and Drake.
Yeah, like all of and Impulse and Drake and Connor, right? Like all of these different interactions, and it is truly amazing. This is probably my favorite story this week.
Yeah.
I loved this book. Now,
at the beginning of the issue, she's like, "Why we can't be here? We don't have powers." And by the end of this issue, she's got an internship at the Hall of Justice.
Because literally after everyone leaves, Drake walks up and helps her move some things like into the back and back into the truck or something. Yeah. And she's like, I don't know how we did this. We don't have power, this, that, and that. And he's like, I don't have any powers. She's like, what? He's like, yeah. She's like, then how do you do this? He was like, that's what being a hero is doing what it is you can, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, yeah. But you know what else? You know how good this issue was, Alec?
It has Brian's quote of the week.
It does have Brian's quote of the week.
Brian's quote of the week. Quote.
Yeah. So they're cleaning up, and one of the things, Wonder Woman's talking to Cassie, and she says something about, yeah, you've got a good team here. It's really good. Lead them well, Cassie. And she's like, no, I don't lead the team. And Wonder Woman's like, it's a good path. One you were clearly born to. And it just shows Cassie looking up at her. And then it shows Connor and Drake looking at each other. And then it shows Jenny Hex.
Yes.
And Jenny goes, so what's Wonder Woman's deal? Is she seeing anyone? And Cassandra goes, Jenny, that's my aunt. Yeah, what's her deal? Is she seeing anyone?
Yeah. If we somehow couldn't already love Ginny Hex more.
Yeah. Yep. You got it.
Yep.
Oh my god. I love it. This is just truly a fantastic, feel good in a different kind of way issue.
Yeah. Like, it's... Yeah. I think I've said before, like, the thing that has kept Teen Titans runs on a whole from working for me since I've been reading comics is missing that sort of chosen family dynamic and that working as opposed to being a source of drama. Here, it's not used for drama. It fuels character growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Naomi is saying, okay, yeah, my parents are, because like you said, it's within 48 hours. It's within 2 days.
Yeah.
She's like, me being part of this after just having got my parents are freaking out and losing their mind. I got to get home. And they're like, yeah, do it. And Jenny's like, I'll text you later. And she's like, okay. And by the way, tell your parents they're awesome. And Cassandra's like, yeah, they are awesome. Like, letting you be here at all. Know how good your parents are. Right? Yeah, it's so good. So wonderful. Can't wait for the next one. Which, by the way, the next one is called Spoilers.
Yes. I'm excited for the next one as well.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to the next book this week, Coffin Bound, number 5. I will probably be pretty quick here, too. This is a sort of horror... I'd almost call it like a horror road trip series. That's sort of the common ground that each of these arcs has. From Dan Waters and the artist Danny. This begins a new arc that is a new story. So it's becoming an anthology series in that each arc is its own separate story that you could read on its own. Mm-hmm. The horror elements definitely remain. In this arc, the main character is a worshipper, devotee of God. And in this world, God is heroin or whatever. God is an opiate. God is a literal opiate that you worship by injecting into your veins.
Who was it? Stalin who had the quote?
That religion is the opiate of the masses?
Yes.
It was either Stalin or Lenin.
I can't remember.
Hang on, it might have been...
I don't think it was Marx.
It might have been Marx.
It was one of the large inspiration or leaders of the Soviet. Anyway.
Oh, let's just see.
It just made me think of that. Yeah.
They make Google.
They do make Google. You're right. But I mean, clearly that had to be a source of inspiration for this storyline. Then
it is Karl Marx.
Karl Marx. Okay. Yeah.
Who was German.
Yes. But obviously.
Yeah. No, I mean, Marxism became the basis for it.
Yes. Correct.
Anyway, religion is a literal opiate and is on the verge of being outlawed. This issue opens with this main character whose name I forget. She is coming down from a high. And basically the way she and the priest, who is her dealer, feel that you see God. If God has no voice, the only time you can hear God is when he is leaving and the space between being with him and coming back to the real world. So like she is specifically she is specifically looking for that moment where she comes down. And with the church, this is the weirdest fucking book to try to explain. I'm realizing this as I try to do it. With the public trying to block the church, they've got weeks, maybe a couple months. The priest sends her to find the Vulture, who is one of 2 recurring characters from the first arc. The first arc was a road trip between its main character and the Vulture, who's like an omen of death. Once you see him, you're sort of predestined to die.
Okay.
Running from the Earth Eater. In this arc, its main character decides, well, the only way I'm going to see this Vulture is if I go find the Earth Eater. So she gets a friend to call another friend and finds an address for the Earth Eater, who's like this sort of force of nature that takes contracts like a hitman. And he's currently on a vacation, doesn't have any contracts coming up for a couple of weeks. He's not fucking killing anyone. He's just trying to eat a sandwich with this really great dirt that he bought from around the world. Thank you. So she decides to take matters into her own hands. If the only way the vulture shows up is if you're gonna die, she puts out a hit on herself to lure in the vulture to prove that the divine exists so that the church can stay open.
Wow. Hey, this is very, very. I may have to pick this up because that sounds weird enough that I would love it.
It is very weird. The Earth Eater. There are narrations that happen whenever the Earth Eater first shows up in an issue, the first arc in this one. See if, Brian, you can ferret out the inspiration for this. Because this is specifically based on something in another book. Earth Eater, a name which causes blood to run cold and pants to be shat wherever it is whispered, the unstoppable killer whose every contract is signed in mud. Earth Eater, reuniter of man and dirt, the earth itself speaks to him and calls him to his prey. Earth Eater doesn't have a job due to start until next week and is enjoying some well-earned downtime.
Oh, God, I know that. I do know that pattern, but I cannot think of what it is.
Next wave!
There. Yeah. Yeah, where they say it and give the... Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is such a weird book. It is these high concepts with this really gorgeously colored, grungy, sketchy art. I love Danny's art in this. The colorist on this book too is Brad Simpson. But then these weird comedic beats all throughout it. It's such this weird mishmash of things that shouldn't work, but it does.
For just some of the things, it almost sounded a little almost like a horror version of like a Doom Patrol.
A little, but I think
yeah, but the tone's not quite the same. Yeah, I get that, but there's certainly elements that make me think of that. Is all I'm saying.
It is more existentialist than absurdist.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the difference between it and a Doom Patrol.
There you go.
All right. Moving on to something less bizarre.
And now for something completely different.
Empyre. We are once again going to try to run in order. And if you are... We'll just go ahead and rip this bandage off the top. If you are reading along on Empyre and trying to follow the checklist in the back, you have probably already noticed that even with the revised version they've had in the last couple of weeks, it's still really out of order and out of sequence.
Marvel, if you're going to have an event and you're going to put out a reading order checklist, put the books out in fucking order.
I mean, I'm willing to cut Marvel slack in that I know they are massively retooling around being shut down and
I know
canceling, and they're trying to get this done in time for Ten of Swords to happen and all of that. But as much as I love this being a weekly event, maybe it didn't need to be a weekly event.
Yeah.
At least have the checklist be in publication order. Or put the dates next to the issues as they come out if you want it in reading order. There's no good answer here. I don't wanna bite at Marvel for this one.
Right.
Because it is kind of lose-lose.
It is. But, and I do acknowledge that, but
just trying to figure out the notes for this week, I had to look up every book between Lords of Empyre and I had to look up release dates for a dozen different books to figure out what was already out, what had forgotten to pick up at the comic shop. This is when I realized I'd forgotten a couple of things.
You know what I would be okay with? I would even be okay with them putting this out and just put an asterisk or bold or underline or something okay, these, this week, these, or, in the next 3 weeks, these 3 things, you need to read these in the checklist, the reading order. The rest of the stuff, put it in wherever it comes out, right? I would be okay with that, but not knowing if I should read something before, if it's okay to read it before something else comes out. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's... While we're here, this was also one of those weeks where Marvel spoiled the end of an issue in a press release before the issue came out.
Great.
Somehow that was headline news. Marvel spoils plot twist. It's called every event.
What story? Yeah.
It was Empyre #4.
Was it Empyre? Okay,
They spoiled the end of Empyre #4 in a press release.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, I mean that's anyway. We're being uncharacteristically negative and need to move on. Lords of Empyre, Celestial Messiah one shot. I think this is a quick one, an easy one to get through.
I agree.
It is Koi's sort of final test before everything that we've seen so far in Empyre to sort of prove that he is capable of leading the Kotati. And it is essentially a fight with a plant golem of Mantis, his mother, who Mantis has projected her consciousness into to try to reach out to him and stop him from doing this thing. And that works as framing device for giving us Mantis's history.
The history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not Mantis and
Koi's. Yeah. Their history.
Yep. Yes.
Like this is a good example of this one definitely would have ideally been before Empyre #3, and I think that's in the checklist.
Yeah.
But like I don't think, having read them in the order they're coming out, I don't think it hurt too much to have it here.
Yep.
It's I think a good read, a useful read if you don't know much about the whole Celestial Madonna story, and I don't.
I didn't either, and yeah, it was a very well received from me. A thank you for okay, good. Thank you for the knowledge.
Yeah,
that's gonna help. Yeah. It's
kind of like the Sins Rising prelude.
Exactly. Yep. I would classify it the same way. Yeah. Yes.
Empyre X-Men #2. You know what? I would read an entire series of magic and horticulture just sniping at each other.
There's a reason that I have loved magic my entire life.
Fair.
Well, since she came out as a New Mutant, whenever. But yeah.
Her entire life.
There you go. Yes.
This is kind of what you'd expect based on the first issue of this miniseries. Things are escalating on Genosha in the war between the plants, zombies, old people, and X-Men. The X-Men and Horticulture kind of call an alliance, an uneasy alliance, to fight the plants and put down the zombies. And I think the thing that's really useful that we learn here is the landing ships that the Kotati are coming down to Earth on take root and grow and embed themselves in the soil, and also can be giant bombs.
Which would make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Fantastic Four #22. This is picking up where 21 left off in the fight between Franklin, Valeria, Wolverine, and Spider-Man against the acolytes of the Kotati who have come to kidnap the Kree kid who they saved back in #20.
Yep.
Apparently, part of his encyclopedic knowledge of the history of the Kree Empire is how to build a very specific cosmic device, and their having this knowledge would be a bad thing. Unfortunately, nobody wants to listen to Spider-Man, who is warning them, hey, there's still something going on, the danger is not over. It was not the kid who you just shanked, Wolverine. It's something else. So they get ambushed and the kid gets taken. And we see the other two members of the new Fantastic Four, Hulk and Ghost Rider, and how they might fit into this.
All right.
If you, like me, were wondering, no, how the fuck is Hulk going to be involved in this right now? There's a good answer.
Okay.
Empyre #4.
Well, speaking of Hulks in Empyre related stories.
Yeah. Speaking of, yep, this was
called
bound
shots,
to happen
Alex.
eventually. No, I don't even feel good calling this one a called shot. This was clearly telegraphed.
Yeah, you're right. This one was 100% telegraphed. Especially
This is
if
Chekhov's Hulk.
especially if you looked forward in the checklist and saw, wait, Empyre Immortal She-Hulk #1. What is that?
That's also a good hint. Yeah.
That was also a good hint. So yeah, it turns out the Kotati, just like we expected, did something to Jen when they took her off.
Killed
To
her and replaced her
help
with a
her.
plant person wearing her skin.
Yeah, pretty much. So she's dead.
Yep.
But, you know,
That doesn't stop Hulks.
that does, well, clearly, if we're getting something called Immortal She-Hulk, we're going to find out that, I guess,
Yeah.
same kind of thing that's going on with Hulk.
Well, and if you want to go way, way back, there was an issue where Doctor Strange, I think, warned Jen about, like, all these events are about to happen, and it's going to be a bad time for you, buddy.
Yep. Yeah. And so essentially we get Johnny Storm and Captain Marvel, Carol, basically starting to question Teddy and the decisions that he's making. And so they essentially banish them to they teleport them off of the Kree Skrull warship to Teddy's apartment.
I loved teleport was the only spell I had prepared as a plot point.
Yes. Oh, these play by D&D rules.
Yeah,
all
for
right, I
real.
see how
Like,
this works.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have murder prepared last night. I just had teleport.
Right, yeah. So it was Mergen who teleported them, and so we find out where she teleported them was to Teddy's apartment, right?
Yep.
And gee, who's there?
Wiccan. Billy.
Billy, yep. And so Billy has what is, again, an absolutely wonderful conversation with them.
Yes.
What is a very adult, yes. In that so basically Carol shows him what it is they saw Teddy, the decisions and all that, and he's like, oh yeah, that's not him.
Yep.
What do you mean? Well, you obviously had the same problem because you questioned him and thought something might be going on. But I'm telling you, I know him better than anybody, and that ain't him.
Yep. And then we get a big spoiler that we're not going to spoil.
Yes, which is absolutely fantastic,
yes.
And I was so happy. I was so happy to see who was there.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. What is the Empyre Handbook?
It is, Marvel has done the official Marvel Universe Handbook for a long, long time, right? And periodically, when they do either events or crossover storylines, sometimes they will have like a whatever handbook that updates the entries, or in some cases adds whole new entries for the characters and races and planets and whatever has to be involved in that storyline.
So this is the wiki, but in print.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, and the first probably 6. By the way, usually these are mostly text. Yeah, like a lot of text.
Yeah,
right, with just pictures inset. Think like a newspaper, honestly. As far as kind of layout, and the first 8 or 10 pages is basically getting you caught up with the Avengers, going back from like Avenger X and the Scarlet Witch stuff, where she inverted the Avengers.
Okay.
And it goes from there literally all the way up to the start of Empyre.
Cool.
So it catches you, and then there's the blue area of the moon, and who. There's an update on Captain Marvel and what all she's been through recently, who the Kotati are. So essentially, like I said, just kind of updates to those entries from kind of and it tells you where it's where the ones that aren't completely new. It's like, oh, this is updated information from when it last appeared in handbook, whatever for this event. So that's kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Deadpool #6. Remember when I was like, hey, Deadpool, some issue coming up eventually soon is gonna go to Krakoa. Maybe in October?
God.
I was right the first
This-
time when I said the next issue. It was this issue.
This was the best Deadpool issue I have read in years.
There's
Not because other ones have been bad, but because this one is just so damn good.
I mean, 2 words, Brian. Fastball special.
And I absolutely adore that people that like instantly people either hate Jeff the Land Shark or they love Jeff the Land Shark.
Is that an expensive bag with legs?
It's darling and I must have it. Thank you, Emma. In your most Cruella de Vil, yes.
Yeah.
But then what's amazing is Jeff like goes and sits in her lap and just lets her pet him.
He's a sucker for pets. He'll take pets from anyone.
So this is Wade is very hurt that he has not been invited to Krakoa.
Not because he's a mutant, but because everyone thinks he is because of his movies.
Correct. Yes. 100%. So he finds out because I don't know if you remember, but he and Jeff the Land Shark have been playing what is essentially Magic the Gathering
Yeah.
with cards that were built that have all the abilities of all the monsters on Monster Island, on the new Monster Island.
Yeah, they're like a riff on the same Deadpool supervillain cards that you saw in Unbeatable
Yes.
Squirrel Girl.
Exactly. And he looks at Jelby. He looks at the card for Jelby to try to figure out what his powers are, and discovers that Jelby is a mutant and can swallow any amount of anything. So he's like, well, but he's a mutant. Well, shit, this is easy. I'll just get him to swallow me. Then he can go through a gate to Krakoa, and I'll be there.
It has everything. Jeff the Land Shark and Vor.
So Jeff the Land Shark bites his butt as he's being swallowed, so that he goes as well. And then then Wade does the Kawaii Princess pose inside of Jelby with Jeff the Land Shark biting his butt. It's beautiful.
Deadpool has also heard that the mutants have the cure for cancer, which he would very much like to have.
Yeah, and he's super put out that they didn't invite him to have the cure for cancer because, hey, I got the cancer.
The only one who would even return his call was Rogue.
Yes.
And then he is bummed to learn that there is no cure for cancer.
So they go through the gate, sets off alarms, imagine that, and a team shows up to stop him. It's Beast and Wolverine and Polaris and Storm and Armor and Magic. And Magic beats the shit out of him. But falls in love with Jeff.
Yes.
Because of course she does. Yes. Then Wade goes to see Emma, and Emma's like, no, we don't have a cure for cancer. No, you can't have unlimited pass rights to Krakoa, but you can get approval and visit when you want because you are our friend. And no, we're not going to give you a seed to grow a gate of your own on Monster Island for Krakoa. There's one literally like less than 2 miles from you in Manhattan. Two of them.
There
right,
are
I'm sorry.
two
Right.
gates.
There
Don't
are
be
two
greedy,
in
Wade.
Yeah. That's right. Yes. And then Wade and Jeff do a fastball special where he throws Jeff at Lorna. It's beautiful. So wonderful. And then how does the fight stop?
Rogue shows up.
Rogue shows up, and Wade instantly just stops fighting because we know he loves Rogue.
Yeah. Who doesn't? Especially when Kelly Thompson's writing.
Yeah. So he goes back and he comes up with the first rule for the new Monster Island.
Don't talk
What is the
about New
first
Monster
rule?
Island. Right? No crying in New Monster Island?
No, don't talk about New Monster Island. Don't talk about New Monster Island. And then so the first new rule, I guess, for New Monster
I
Island.
was just making
New
jokes.
Staten.
No more
Which is
mutants. It's no
no
more
more
mutants.
mutants.
He does, however,
Yeah.
like they only have 3 rules on Krakoa, and one of them's about getting down.
Yes. He said, I can respect that. And then we get what is going to be the next story in this, because holy crap. And by the way he responds to her is beautiful. Elsa Bloodstone comes up and says, hey, this is when he holds up the no more mutant sign. Nice sign. Did you have some bloody primary schoolers make that for you? Because it looks so bad. He's like, listen, sometimes you're nice to me and sometimes you're mean. While you're always hot, which almost makes even the mean times worth it. I'm going to be real with you.
I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The best Deadpool stories are the ones where they get kind of sad.
Well, we're about to get
We're about to get it.
Because we just found something out.
Elsa's dying.
Elsa's dying.
Like the cover for the next issue. Deadpool shot through the heart, and it looks like she's to blame.
He definitely gives love a bad name.
Yep. Well, moving on. Another friend of Krakoa. Giant size X-Men Fantomex #1.
More than any other one, I think I can pick this one up and say it's a sequel to something.
Yeah.
And that is the Jean Grey, Emma Frost.
Yes. This
One
does... I mean, this does double duty here, right? There's a lot of
It does.
history
Absolutely.
of Fantomex, history of the world, and setting up what I'm sure will come back. Setting up two things. One, the world is this sort of self-contained lab that does experiments, is science-focused, eventually gets taken over by AIM, all that. It's where Fantomex is from. None of that's really new information. And certainly the history of Fantomex is rife with multiple personalities that sometimes are all in him and sometimes are external. But this sets up an actual biological twin of Fantomex that's been created, and because time passes differently in the world, which is going back to themes from early Dawn of X stuff, time is passing differently. His conception of time is very different. And I think this is sort of setting him up to be someone who comes back and becomes important, this clone.
Yeah, I think so as well, yes.
The other thing, thing you're talking about too, is the other thing this does, which the last trip in, basically he takes a trip in about every 10 years in regular Earth time. The last trip in is to help the X-Men find a cure for the virus Storm has that we found out about in the Jean Grey, Emma Frost giant size.
Another really good, well-told story, one shot that informs but is not critical to any other actual ongoing story.
I think we've got one more of these remaining.
That sounds right.
Yeah, because I think
I don't remember. Oh, is it Storm?
That's right, Storm.
Yeah, there's one for Storm now. Yeah, I keep thinking that the other one was Storm, but the other one was Jean Grey, Emma Frost. Yeah.
All right, last one, and I'll be quick here. Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm going to talk about both the free comic book day issue, which was out in print a couple of weeks ago, was out digitally this week. The X-Men free comic book day issue was also available digitally this week. And then #1, which came out in print and digitally. Horizon Zero Dawn #1. This is mostly focused on Talana, who was a supporting character in the video game. She was the first female member of the Hunting Lodge that plays a sort of central role in the latter half, maybe, of the game. Who, over the course of events, and some spoilers for the game, this is set after it, becomes the leader of the lodge. And post-game, Aloy, who is the main character, has gone on the road. She needed to get away from where everything's been going down. If you've played the game, you've got some hint at what those reasons are. But Talana also realizes, while she values leading the lodge and wants to do work there, she can't just stay in running the place all the time. So she goes in the field, she takes a contract on this new kind of machine that has shown up. And we see that kind of gets you through the free comic book day, which is, a little shorter because it's a free comic book day. This first issue picks up with her on the hunt. We meet some new supporting characters. We see a design for a new machine that was not in the game, so some content maybe that will be part of Horizon Forbidden West.
Mm-hmm.
A riff on one of the scrappers, I think it was, or no, one of the early robots. We see sort of a riff on it that's a little deadlier. The Watcher, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The little guy.
Yeah, with the big eye, the sort of velociraptor.
Yeah. Yeah, the little, so it's like probably a bigger like velociraptor.
It's armed and has razor blades and things like that. It's a more vicious. It can climb.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is, I think, definitely something that you will find more value in if you are a fan of the game.
That makes sense.
Like, it's hard. Like, the first couple of pages of each of these are history of the world, history of the characters you're going to see, like, catch-up information. But really, I think this is ideally for people who are looking to sort of fill the gap and looking for content while they wait on Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, and there's quite a few books that have come out over the years that are clearly aimed at people who played a game or what. Like,
I think
Life is Strange was very, very much that way.
I think given that, at least for me, playing the game, a lot of what really makes it something special is the time and focus given to supporting characters and characters in the middle of side quests. It makes a lot of sense to have a comic talk about what that fallout is for one of the biggest of those characters.
I get what you did there, Fallout. No, I'm kidding.
Because I get the sense that, like, Horizon Forbidden West, we're not going to see a lot of the same characters.
I would think not, unless there happens to be a person maybe that goes with her for a period or something. Yeah, but not many.
This is one character who it could be, and maybe this explains how. But I don't think I've seen Talana in the trailer.
Yeah, I don't.
Anyway, I'm not normally a big tie-in licensed comic person. I think this definitely plays for me because it's a game I love.
Right, I was going to say, you are the audience for this.
I am 100%, I think, the reader this comic expects.
Yep.
All right, is it still good? Ghosted in LA, number 11. We learn what the fuck is haunting this house. King of Nowhere, number 4. We learn the secret history of Nowhere. And, hey, look, the government's a bunch of assholes. Batman, number 96, Brian.
We continue the Joker War and get a little bit more of his plot.
I am always here for more Batman Harley Quinn teaming up.
Yes.
Far Sector, number 7. We learn what is special about Joe's ring as she decides to, basically, enter the Matrix. Justice League number 50, Brian.
This is the end of the Justice League Rules a Planet arc, and we get turns out Wonder Woman was right all along.
Strange Adventures number 4, Brian.
God. Turns out we were right all along. And Michael's having a real hard time proving it. Gee, it's almost like governments cover shit up.
Ice Cream Man number 20. It's very good. It's bedtime stories. You should read this book on a boat. You should read this book with a goat. You should read this book in a box. You should read this book with a fox.
I will read it here and there. I will read it anywhere. Yeah.
Sex Criminals number 30. This is the last main issue. We have an epilogue coming out next month. This is the answer to what happens to Susie after everything blows up.
All right.
Doctor Strange, number 6, the unexpected last issue. Brian.
Surprise! Yeah, we get the conclusion of this arc, which is a damn good thing, since we also got the conclusion of this series. Okay. Nobody expected this. This was not pre-announced in any way. No.
Also, Madame Mask has an unhealthy fixation with Tony Stark.
Oh my god. Girl.
Guardians of the Galaxy number 5. Heather Douglas and Heather Douglas duke it out over who is the more valid Heather Douglas. Strike Force number 9. Strike Force fights in a fighting pit on Monster Island, and oh boy, I hope everybody can trust Jessica with shapeshifters running around. And then Brian, Bad Reception number 5.
Yeah, this is the final story of this, probably of the whole thing. So I'm going to step outside of our normal Is It Still Good format real quick, just to say, if you don't remember, this is an Aftershock book that is by Juan Doe. He is basically everything in this. He does just about every, color, art, writing, all of it.
Amazing artist.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And this is about two people who are getting married, one of which is like the most followed social media person on the planet. She's a singer, actress, and huge, and it's about their wedding. Well, the husband is famous because he had just written a book called Off the Grid, which is about not doing social media at all and taking breaks from it and that kind of thing.
A modern day
So it's
Dharma and Greg.
Yeah, it's very zeitgeist right now. And shit goes real wrong during this wedding, in that a murderer shows up and starts killing the people in what they figure out is the order of least to most followers on social media. So we get the resolution to that, and also the fallout of what happens. And this, I would certainly, now that the whole thing is out, I would highly recommend this in trade. If we end up doing at some point a live show again where we got to pick books, this may be something I pick for you guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow, imagining a world where live shows are possible again.
I know,
Inconceivable. Right? Next week's books to read there. Next week's books to read.
Woohoo.
7 Secrets number 1. Tom Taylor's new creator-owned series. The most pre-ordered creator-owned series in Boom Comics history.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I had this on my list too.
Yes. Spoiler alert, it's actually the only one on my list because it's like the only number 1 coming out next week.
Yeah, it is. I put a number 3 on my list just because I wanted to mention it again.
You did, and it's a good pick. What is it?
Yeah. Adventure Man, number 3.
Yes.
Yeah, just this book has been fantastic. The art is beautiful. I love everything about this book, so I'm excited for another issue of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for us this week.
It is.
We'd like to thank Chase Parker for our intro voiceover. You can head on over to panelologypodcast.com if you want to listen to our backlog, or find a link to our YouTube channel, or find our Twitter handles, or whatever. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/panelology. You can get merch at bit.ly/panelologymerch, capital P, capital M. Or you can send us questions and comments at bit.ly/panelologymailbag. Again, capital P, capital M. I'm Alex.
And I'm Brian. You know what you should do this week? Go read comics.